I can remember around, I think it was 2008, 9, 10, 11. Around that time, when I was in the classroom, we had a pretty solid cell phone policy. Cell phones were not allowed. And I remember when that rule slowly started to disappear because I was one of the teachers who was enforcing that rule. And what happened was I just kept getting pushback from students. Well, Mr. and Mrs. So and so, they let us use phones, and I would continue to hold the line. I held the line until eventually I got tired of constantly fighting that battle. There were teachers on my own team who were allowing students to use cell phones. Against the that was against the school rules, set by the principal. So one of the complaints from the students was that, well, you get to use your phone. And I remember, like, I'm still kind of slightly offended by that, in that, um, we are not on the same level. We are not on we're not on the same level. You address me by my surname. That doesn't mean that I'm better than you, but that means that with that authority comes certain rights and other privileges. And so that but I remember constantly that was a lot of the reasoning from students given, that, hey, it's not fair that you get to use your phone and we can't use ours. So so yeah, that was a huge argument from students, and it really did feel like they were just trying to bring both of us down to the same level. And that's not what it is. That's not what it is. Now, definitely, it doesn't mean that we're better than students. We just have different responsibilities within the classroom. And largely that did work the way that I built relationships with my students, of course. And so that they understood it. They understood that Dr. Bird is doing his job. He does care about them, but here, you just can't have cell phone. But yeah, eventually I just got tired of it. I got tired of fighting the fight. And then I set certain stipulations. I didn't just fully give in. There were certain stipulations for when they could listen listen to music during independent work time. That was fine. And I remember I had my principal came in with the associate principal, and he came in. Some independent study. I'm working with some students at my desk. Of course, they're listening to music and they're doing what they need to do. I'm cool. Yes, that's what I want. Like, wonderful time to come do an observation. Do you know that his feedback was, there are violations of school rules? That was his feedback to me. And at that point, I said to myself, you know what? I suspect you are someone who's forgotten what it's like in the classroom. Now, I didn't say that to his face, but I made that up. What was worse, really, for a principal is I made that uh, conclusion up in my mind, and I moved forward. So basically, what I did, and I'm not telling you to do this, but I closed my door and I did my job. Students continue to be able to utilize their phone when I allowed them to utilize their phone. Primarily at the time, it was just music. They were using the phones for music during independent study time and at the end of the hour. So it worked for me. Uh, so the main thing out of that story, my experience with cell phones, is that, yeah, students, like, they said plenty of times when I was holding the line, hey, that's not fair. You get to use your phone, even though I was working. I wasn't always on my phone. The fact that I could look at my phone when I wanted to, that's what they had a problem with. But check out this post, because now that argument is coming back full circle now that we have many states implementing these cell phone bans. And it's really interesting because now that argument isn't coming from just the students, it's coming from the parents. Check this out. Posts. Since when do students have the same rights as teachers? Our state has implemented a student cell phone earbud smartwatch ban. The schools are starting to post on social media about this happening this upcoming year. The main rant is that all of the parents and students are arguing that teachers need to have them banned too. My question is, when did children start to have the same rights and privileges as adults? For instance, the parents are legit angry teachers are not included in the ban. Do these parents also ground themselves when they don't follow the same rules they impose on their children? I remember having to pay attention and learn when I was being taught the information, but now I know the information. I'm literally working, not on my phone. Could you imagine if an emergency situation occurred and I was like, sorry, I couldn't contact the emergency personnel. I'm not allowed on my cell phone. Shaking my head at parents for thinking teachers are in the same category as students. FYI, I'm for no cell phones for students. If teachers are on their phones when they should be working, they should receive job targets and let their bosses deal with it. So, yeah, I like that. Just a rant, since I obviously cannot go on and voice these things to the social media voicing these issues. So, again, it's going to be interesting how these statewide cell phone bans, how it turns out during this upcoming 25-26 school year. Yeah, and I suspect you're going to see a lot of that argument being made because yeah, this is brand new for students and their parents, and it's a complete 180 of the way things used to be. And keep in mind there's going to be students caught up in this who, they're doing what they need to do. They're and and so they're going to find it unfair, and they're going to grasp at any argument to try to make their case. But I suspect that if the schools hold the line, if all the teachers hold the line, if the principals are inspecting what they expect, then I suspect it's going to be fine. It's life is going to go on. Students are going to realize, oh wow, this is what it's like to have a conversation, a face-to-face conversation with a friend, as opposed to just sending texts and emojis and pictures. And it's going to be quite refreshing, especially for principals, that there's no verbal altercations between students because of mean texts sent during the school day. So this will be interesting. We'll keep an eye on this throughout the 25-26 school year. What are these children going to do without access to their phones while they're in school? Oh no. Someone please think of the children.